Hello, it's Darren at Moonhare Studio, and I recently got a comment on one of my videos which really made me chuckle. It says, sounds like too much reverb, not mastered yet, badly mixed. Well, that comment probably sits somewhere between uncharitable and quite astute. So I thought I might go into some of the reasons why that may be the case, but also have a look at how we can put it right. So it's worth remembering that by the time you watch this video, it's been through 3 compression processes for audio. It's been through the screen capture software, the video editing software, and then rendered by YouTube itself. But of course, if you get a sparkling mix and you put that into YouTube, it should come across. So I've been listening back to the original mix on the video. I think it probably sits somewhere between Dog Poo and I am a golden god! And obviously what we want to do is to raise it as close to that level as we can. Right, so I'm not a sound engineer. I'm not going to claim that this is a mixing master course. It is certainly not. It's a musician trying to get a good balanced mix of his own piece of music. Now, the first stage that I'm going to do, I've just leveled out all of the faders. So we've just got everything at whatever level it's coming in, straight out the box. I've also set up a reference mix, which is the previous version of this track, the previous mix, so that I can solo it in and out and have a listen, and then I can tell whether I'm actually making matters worse or whether I'm actually improving on that original. If we play the loudest part of the track, I'm looping around the loudest part. We can instantly see that there are some issues here if we've just got our faders set like that. We've got tracks peaking into the red, summing up to something really quite monstrous once it gets to the stereo and the master bus, and we can see it's actually peaking right now. If we're getting anywhere close to this 0 mark, we're going to end up with, could push it into distortion, so we don't want to do that. If we have a listen to the reference track, which is at roughly the same level in volume, you can hear it does sound different. In fact, it might sound thinner in some ways. There's very little processing on that original one. It was pretty much just a balanced mix with virtually nothing done to it. So anyway, we've got a starting point here. What we need to do is make sure that all of these instruments are within a sort of tolerable range. I usually aim for around about the -18 through to, I don't know, -12 mark, something like that. And I'll do that by using pre-gain. So we're pre-fader. We've just got our gain controls here, and I will run through each one and draw it back down to a reasonable level and see if we can actually stop all of this peaking over here. So that's the first stage. So for instance, our percussion here seems to be a bit hot, so we'll draw that down a little bit and get it back. Doesn't matter at this point whether you can hear it clearly or not. We're just trying to level all of these out so that they're not driving too hard when they get to the buses. So you can see the green colour in my faders in the metering is up to the -18, -18, whatever you want to call it. These are the buses, so they're summing up what's going on further down. Those are a little bit hot as well. So just go through, balance everything out. So I've got all my gains sorted out. Everything's back down to a sort of reasonable level, as you can see along here, and then summing up into the buses. And then I've still got quite a bit of headroom up here in the master bus, so that later on when we start EQing, compressing, etc., we've still got that ability to push things a little. Next stage is to do what's referred to as a static mix or a balanced mix, where you actually just get the volumes of the different instruments in ratio to each other. So you've got a pleasant sound there. You can actually hear all of the instruments clearly. Now, many sound engineers mix a lot of their mix in mono, and they only come to stereo and panning and all of that towards the end. Now, I'm not really that advanced, but I do use mono at this stage. So in Cubase, you've got Control Room, which has a mono stereo switch, so you can literally just flip backwards and forwards between the two. If you don't have that, or your DAW doesn't have it, you can just insert something on your master bus. So I've got the Klanghelm VUMT here. It's a fantastic VU meter. It's got loads and loads of other things it can do, but I don't use it to alter sound at all. I use it for metering and to change from mono to stereo and back again. So get something like that, a little plug-in you can put on there, and then that'll be fine. This VU meter is actually really useful as well, because you want to be hitting around about the 0 dB on the VU meter, just pushing a little bit into the red every now and again, but trying to hit that sweet spot, because a lot of the analog type plugins, tape saturation, things like that, really work best when you're pushing into that sort of region. Anyway, now it is literally just a case of leveling these instruments up. I would start with the lead line. Whatever you feel is your lead instrument should be at the top. And in this case, it tends to be the brass that's doing that main line in the absence of a vocal or a lead electric guitar. And I'm just going to basically take everything else down to start off with, and then start mixing from that point. So we'll just pull all the sliders down, and we've got our brass up here at the top. Stick it in mono and just try to listen out for what's going on there. The mid brass is actually a line which is underneath the main line, so in fact I'll pull the mid slightly down. Let's just mute that. And then we start bringing in other instruments, so the strings. So I'll get on with that, and then I'll come back to you once I've got my balanced mix. Right, I've got my static mix or my balance done. You'll see that my faders are roughly in this sort of 0 position. Slight variations obviously, and to be quite honest, it doesn't really matter if some of your faders end up all the way down the bottom, because to be quite honest, if you've got your balance right and you're not going to be moving them around, then that's fine. It's just that you lose definition down at the lower end of the throw, so you know, a small movement might increase 20 dB, whereas up here the same movement might only be 1 or 2. So just bear that in mind, but obviously don't get hung up on it. So if we play a little bit through the track, we're still listening in mono, and I'm just listening out for instruments that might have disappeared entirely from the mix. Of course, we've got our reference track still there, which we can listen to. And what I'll do is I'll just ping it into stereo, because it is a pleasanter listen for you. And I think when you listen to the reference track, it's not hugely different. It's got less bottom end and more sort of definition probably at the top. But it was in itself just a static mix. It wasn't really EQ'd. I think there was a little bit of EQ on one channel, a couple of channels, something like that. But other than that, it was pretty much out of the box. So what we need to do is improve on that out of the box. Right, I'm going to do the most important thing that you can do now, and I'm going to take a break. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to rest my ears. I'm going to have a lovely bit of chocolate cake from my mum. And in the next video, I'll come back and we'll start to look at the meat and potatoes of things like compression, EQ, and reverb at the end. Although I will explain a bit about reverb on this particular track because we may not need all that much. And I hope you've enjoyed this so far. If you're a sound engineer and you're slapping your forehead in frustration thinking, what the heck are you talking about, man? I do apologise, but I'm just trying to get a few concepts going that a lot of people are using, and just see how I get on. So if you're into like and subscribe, that's fine, but as I say, I don't ask it of people because I know there's a lot of really good channels out there with people far more wise and competent than I am. So just enjoy the videos that you want to delve into and forget the rest. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.